So we are reconvening to open session. Thank you, everyone. I'm taking Julie's place, so help me when I get lost. I do have a bet with Julie to complete the meeting in under an hour, so we're going to try. Be efficient. We're going to get everything done. We're not going to miss anything, but we're going to try to really move. Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
I just have one comment on the agenda.
Okay.
I think just for transparency purposes, I would like to note future meeting dates at the end, F1. We do have tentatively calendared a special board meeting for July 31st to consider a resolution to place a bond on the November ballot. And that is not listed here. So I'd like to amend the inclusion of that.
Great. Okay, so as amended,
As amended.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you. Input from the public regarding items not on the open session agenda. Public comments submitted by email for items not on the agenda. Do we have anything? Nada. Public comments submitted by email for items on the agenda. Nothing. See, we're moving right along. Consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Okay. There were no actions on items heard in closed session. Reports, association reports. Skip, we haven't seen you in a couple meetings. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
Hi, Lucy.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Principal reports, are you going to be so generous? Okay.
On. Okay, so really just short report tonight. I just want to share some numbers from our school year at Laguna to start off. So these are final numbers, and we're pretty proud of these. And some of these are new initiatives that we started this past year and want to build on. But Laguna students registered and completed 31 classes at SRJC this year. We averaged one workshop per week this year. So during our advisory period, we'd bring people in and present from college and career readiness to social emotional, to academics, to time management, to people coming in providing opportunities such as North Bay Construction Corps, which we have had 5 students get accepted to that complete. We had another 3 get their home health aide certification through Fox Home Health up in Petaluma. So we're pretty proud of those numbers as a first year kind of initiative. And so we're hoping to build on that next year. And then lastly, our grad rate, we graduated 53 of 56 seniors this year. We have one who we are hopeful will complete in summer school, and big senior class for us. We got some spots to fill, but we're pretty proud of those numbers. And kind of lastly, Chris asked if I talk about our process with school site council and what that looks like for us at Laguna. And you know, we are, as a school with less than 300 students, the people that comprise our school site council is much smaller than what's required of, say, in Annalee or a larger school. But our makeup is a principal, a teacher, 2 parents or community members, and a student. And so my first year here, there was no practice of site council, so we started late in the year, and we put it together, and we were able to make it happen and work on our SIPSA and get that going. And then this year, really felt like we got the ball rolling. Our process is we advertise at orientation. We're trying to recruit parents. Back to school night, we're trying to recruit parents. We're always trying to recruit more students. We're sending out parent squares, doing all of that. And this year we were thrilled because we had what I felt like was some really good representation from students from different areas that we serve. We had members from Timber Cove, from Guerneville, from Sebastopol, and we thought the process went really well this year. We had, Laura Schmidt and Sheila Richardson came in, and we started conversations and asset mapping for the community schools grants. And it really just got some awesome input from our stakeholders. And I think moving into next year, what we are really hoping to do is increase the membership in our school site council. My goal is to have at least 5 students on that. It's a great avenue for them to give us consistent feedback every single month. We would like more parents involved, more community members involved. And, one of the things that's becoming very, very clear to me is a need to go to our families. So whether that's rotating sites and traveling to different areas that we serve, and really making it accessible through Google Meets and Zoom or whatever we have to do. Those are things that are really in the works for us for next year and how we want to improve it. And then the last thing I'll say, this year was a really, really concerted effort for us with WASC, really our first full year as a site council, and really aligning our school-wide action plan, our LCAP, and our SIPSA, and making sure all our goals are aligned, they're measurable, and then through our SIPSA and the school site council, ironing out those goals, and then looking at ways we can achieve them, and then allocating the funding sources and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that's it for me tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Really good.
Seems like lots has happened at Annalee since my last report, which was just May, I guess. Highlights include we've completed a master schedule that will pilot 3 cohorted groups of students who will share teachers with a common prep period, 9th, 11th, and 12th grades. We'll also have special ed teachers teamed to push in with English, math, and science teachers working toward a co-teaching model. We're super excited about that. I think, both of those efforts have a real chance of transforming the way students experience school. Day in the Green was fun and successful, though I felt students were a little too enthusiastic about getting me in the dunk tank, which they were very successful at doing. We graduated 365 seniors. We've hired, I believe, 10 teachers now, and a couple classified folks as well. So we've been super busy on that front. Want to give you a brief update on our progress in reviving our site council at Annalee. Before this year, site council had not met since at least the before times, pre-COVID. This year, we started monthly meetings in January with a group that represented students, parents, classified, certificated, and admin. We had a reasonably consistent group. We had some students who were kind of in and out, but at least a couple who were with us pretty much throughout. In January, we worked on forming our group, understanding the rules that govern it, getting clear on the purpose and responsibilities. In February, we had a presentation from Jenny Bruneman, and we were able to provide input on the comprehensive safety plan, which is one of the roles of a site council. In March, we examined data sources and made a plan to focus on identifying areas for improvement. from our school. We completed a goal-setting exercise, really primarily related to 2 data points that the group focused on from the Youth Truth survey. So clear areas for growth for us, and we developed the following 2 goals. So first is by February 2025, we will achieve a new percentile increase of 10% for each disaggregated race subcategory on the Youth Truth student survey question, adults in my school respect people from different backgrounds. Second goal is by February 2025, and that date is chosen just because that's when we take the Youth Truth results actually come out in February. We will achieve a new percentile ranking of 50th percentile for the Youth Truth student survey question. My school has helped me understand the steps I need to take in order to have the career I want. If you've examined any of the Youth Truth stuff in detail, you'll note those 2 questions are definitely areas of growth for us. In April, we engaged in sort of a root cause analysis protocol, did some divergent brainstorming to generate ideas for improvement efforts. And in May, we sort of engaged in the convergent process. So now, in April, we had lots of ideas. In May, we need to sort of narrow down and focus on things to try to achieve the aims. So among the highlights that we sort of came to consensus around were a senior project idea related to the portrait with an internship component, some additional extracurricular busing for students who live far from campus, some additional community event coordination support, an interest-based career fair, an advisory structure, and a beefed up career counselor idea. Beginning in September, we'll reconvene with the goal of formalizing the goals into a site plan and beginning the work of implementation and tracking progress. That's Annalise site report.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks,
Would
Chuck.
you mind, you had that in writing and I was scribbling as fast as I could and I didn't get it all down. Would you mind emailing that to us or take the copy? Thank you.
Great. Board reports. Debbie?
I attended a workshop, Andrew was there also on developer fees that SCO put on yesterday. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of changes might come around regarding that. But besides that, nothing else to report on.
No report.
I don't have a report at this time.
Me neither. Chris?
So I've had a few opportunities to speak on behalf of Mia Del Prete in her retirement, and I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that this is Mia's last board meeting. After a successful 23-year career, Mia is heading into retirement next week. We truly appreciate all of Mia's contributions in supporting our district and community. You will be missed. As we close out the year, I'm extremely proud of the work we accomplished through negotiations with our labor partners, and glad Lily was here for this final meeting of the 23-24 year. As I've acknowledged to the board, and Lily, you may or may not have heard this, but EdCal has picked up the story that was published in the Sebastopol Times and has been shared with all administrators all over California. Our hope is that other negotiating teams will be able to take a few nuggets from our process to better serve their communities and assist with their labor relations. It's a big deal for our district. I'm also extremely proud of the LCAP strategic planning process, and specifically the work of our Educational Partner Committee, who assisted in the development of our strategic plan. I'd like to thank the following members of our committee who not only brought valuable insights to our discussions, but solicited input from their colleagues, students, and parents that they directly work with and support. I'd like to thank Karis Marash, student, Alicia Montano, and Grace Pridham, parents. Educational Services TOSA, Nicole Wilkinson, CTE Coordinator Heidi Mickelson, WASC Coordinator, SOAR Teacher and Academic Support Teacher Ann Pedersen, DEI TOSA Anita Sanduina, Family Engagement Facilitator Jeanette Vigil, Special Education and Student Services Director Laura Schmidt, Trustee Debbie Ramirez, and our two principals, Chuck Wade and Greg Alexander. We're looking forward to implementing the strategic plan, refining and tinkering with it as we move forward over the next 3 years. And obviously, we're really excited about the new staff that joined our community, and we look forward to welcoming the new and returning staff and all of our students in August. That's all I have.
Great. Quite the superstar list there when you start calling out the people we have in our community. Okay, moving on to education services. The first California Department of Education Dashboard Local Indicators Report. Chris?
Yeah, so the local indicators is presented to the Board of Trustees. This is, as I wrote in the item, it's not an action item. This is a self-reflection tool in which we upload this information to the dashboard, and it's reflected on the dashboard as our local indicators. So I'll just go through and highlight some of the information. I don't necessarily need to read all of it as it was presented to the board, but if there are any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions at the end of the report. So the first thing that we report to the state is, let me scroll down to it, our teaching staff and the total teaching FTE, which is 88.6. How many of those teachers have a clear credential, meaning that that credential has been cleared and not provisional by the California Teaching Commission? That's 78.6. How many teachers teach outside of the field of their credential? That's 6.4, and that's appropriately authorized through our process with HR. And we have 2 intern teachers. We don't have any ineffective teachers or incomplete or unknown or not available, so we put zeros in those boxes. The next self-reflection component is regarding LCFF Priority 2, and that's the implementation of state academic standards. So through going through this process for my second time, or really third time, because I assisted the district in doing this as I was coming in, and actually worked with Dan Blake, who was our SCO representative that oversaw our LCAP, to do this. This is really taking, how we feel about the implementation of our ELA Common Core standards, our ELD aligned to ELA standards, mathematics Common Core standards for math, next generation science standards, and history and social studies. So we believe that we have achieved full implementation and sustainability in those categories. The next was to rate the LEA's progress in making instructional materials that are aligned to the recently adopted academic standards and/or curriculum frameworks. Again, we believe we've achieved full implementation and sustainability, as prior to my time, the district adopted Common Core for English and Math, NGSS, and we've been in really good shape with our ELD curriculum. And when that aligned with Common Core, that brought us into compliance. And then social studies, we've purchased new curriculum, but that wasn't part of a curriculum adoption. That was just ensuring that our social studies department has the most recent and relevant curriculum to achieve and sustain alignment. Implementing policies or programs to support staff in identifying areas where we can improve in delivering instruction aligned to the recently adopted standards. We ranked ourselves as initial implementation. I think we still have work to do to look at how we can continue to engage students within the context of the curriculum and the state adopted frameworks, but really look at how they learn and how we can deliver instruction to meet the needs of all students. And I think that we've addressed that and will be able to achieve that through the development of our new strategic plan and some of the things that we've done to pilot some different initiatives, as Chuck mentioned, regarding the master schedule. LEA's progress in implementing the following academic standards adopted by the state: CTE, health education content, physical education model content standards, visual and performing arts, and world language. We're at full implementation and sustainability. Rating the LEA's success at engaging in the following activities with teachers and school administrators during the prior school year. So identifying professional learning needs of groups of teachers or staff as a whole, identifying the professional learning needs of individual teachers and providing support for teachers on the standards that they have not yet mastered. I believe that we are at initial implementation because we've overhauled our professional development initiative. And through seeking input from our staff, we've developed a process in which we're identifying the needs that they feel they have for themselves as professionals, as well as the direction that our administration would like to take the school. So I think that we're at a point where we have developed a common thread for professional development. I think through negotiating and implementing that additional professional development day that will be ongoing through our process, it shows the district and our labor partners' commitment to achieving professional growth across the board. So confident that we can improve in that area, but making sure that we set, this self-assessment in a place in which we see that opportunity for growth. LCFF priority 3 is parent involvement and family engagement. So as you scroll down, you'll see building relationships between school staff and families. I think this is an area where we continue to grow. So I've given us initial implementation in those specific areas. If you'd like me to read them, I can, but I see that all of you are following through. So I'll try to move this agenda item along. Building relationships, dashboard narrative boxes. So you can see that we focused this year to build relationships with parents and creating welcoming environments in our schools and district offices. We implemented a communications coordinator position, and progress has been made with regard to connecting and building relationships with families. So more work to be done there. You've heard us discuss Youth Truth in a variety of different ways. That's the survey that we hang our hat on, and really a tool that allows us to analyze data as it really reflects the feelings of our students, staff, and families. So we're going to continue to utilize Youth Truth to engage our families and offer opportunities for them to provide input that will help to align with our strategic plan. And that's reflected in that narrative. Number 3, we really focused on identifying the needs of our underserved student populations through that root cause analysis, similar process that Chuck mentioned as to what he brought to Site Council, really trying to identify the barriers that some students face that can affect academic achievement. So I think that's an area where we continue to improve. Building partnerships for student outcomes. So again, I ranked us there as an initial implementation because I still think we have more work to do. Would you like me to go through and read those narrative boxes? Okay. Section 3 is seeking input for decision making. So for number 9, I rated us at 5, and then 3 for 10, 11, and 12. We, again, still have more work to do. Input for decision making, narrative box. So, seeking educational partner input and local data. Again, I'm really proud of our process, but I think we can continue to find ways for our educational partner team to, continue to move that information downstream to other folks and solicit input back. So I'm going to look at ways that we can continue to build on our process. Again, it was robust with 6 meetings, but we can always hear more. And I write a little bit about what you heard tonight in number 2 regarding the Site Council teams and their processes, and highlight some of the work of our TOSAs that have really assisted us in moving our strategic plan forward, as they're so close to the ground with students and staff. So we're going to continue to work to improve the engagement of underrepresented families, and I think that's reflected in the decision we made to add the additional family engagement facilitator and really increase communication with all families, but specifically to the multilingual families. School climate, as we scroll down there, you can see I reference Youth Truth data and give you some data selects. In the LCAP, we also reference some Youth Truth data with regard to metrics and baseline information and our target year 3 outcomes, which again, we'll refine, revisit, and tinker with to ensure that we have achievable goals that are realistic, but also help to really guide our process forward through implementing the strategic plan. Are there any other specific highlights you'd like me to note? I can read these narratives, but I know that you've had a chance to review this. Again, a self-reflection tool really just gives us a baseline after completing the LCAP process. How are we doing and how can we get better? So set high standards for achievement for our district in my role, but also with the collaboration of our educational partner team, our staff, our students, our families, and obviously the Board of Trustees. Any questions on local indicator report? This will be uploaded to the CDE dashboard to meet compliance within the allotted timeframe.
Nice.
I just wanted to make one comment if I could, and that was on the access to broad course of study. I wanted to say how much I appreciate the fact in number 2 that you mentioned that we are working so that all kids can have opportunities and not just kids that are going to UCs or CSUs.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that we've spoken to that quite a bit in the past 2 years, just really looking at how the demographics and the needs of the students have changed. And it's our role and responsibility to serve the students that show up and make sure that they all have opportunities and that we work to remove and identify the barriers that block their success. So really excited about moving forward to implement this new LCAP.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consideration of approval of the 24 through 27 LCAP plan.
I move that we move forward with approval of the 2024 to 2027 LCAP.
Second? Okay.
So I'm not going to present. The LCAP remains as it was presented on the 12th. However, I did have Andrew prepare to touch on the budget overview for parents because that's the only element of the LCAP that had some minor adjustments, and that's based on Andrew completing the adopted budget for proposal to the board after public hearing. And, you know, the budget is a revolving cycle and sometimes there's a few moving parts. So Andrew will be able to highlight the notable changes from the draft that I presented to you on the 12th.
All right, so on the budget overview for parents, the projected revenue is where it changed, and we're looking at the local revenue. And with finalization of the budget and adding some FTE to consortium, that additional local revenue increases along with expenses due to consortium as a reimbursement type program that operates. So you'll see that change there. The finalization of the expenditures increasing after finalization of confidential supervisory and management salary schedules that were approved on the 12th. Additional adding of a 0.4 FTE for the high schools, really 0.4 at Annalee, and then an additional 0.4 at the consortium that was added. So that's kind of the combination of increases in expenditures that have happened. There are no increases or changes to the LCAP expenditures with those adjustments.
Any questions?
I had just more of a confirmation. In the LCAP, it says that facilities are I think it was fit is the term used. And that includes both campuses, right?
That is true.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
All those in favor of approving the LCAP?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passed. Great. Consideration of approval of the LCAP plan federal addendum.
Motion.
Do we have a motion? Second? Discussion.
So this is a yearly process because we receive funding and support through our partnership with Sonoma County Office of Education. So I'll open up for any questions. Otherwise, this is just a routine item when the LCAP is brought before the board for adoption.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Oh, yeah, public comment.
Any public comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. College Career Access Pathway Grant MOU. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. I'll second.
Thank you, sir.
Discussion.
So this is a second read. I brought this before you, and Heidi was able to highlight the value of the CCAP partnership with SRJC. We received funding, both $100,000 for Annalee and Laguna. This is an MOU between our district and the Santa Rosa Junior College District. I brought it before you for a first read in May, and the SRJCD Board of Trustees approved it on, I believe, the 14th. So because this is very exciting, I didn't want to put this in consent. And so this is our opportunity to approve the MOU and start this process for the CCAP agreement dual enrollment. And an opportunity for our teachers to become adjunct instructors and teach our courses that align with SRJC courses. So we have 2 teachers, both in the ag department, who are interested and willing to participate and engage in this amazing opportunity for our students. And I'll leave it to questions or board approval.
Questions, comments? Nothing from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Consideration of approval of Prop 28 annual report. Do we have a motion? Second,
I'll second.
Sean. Discussion.
This is a basic report required for Prop 28 funds to present an annual report for approval. So it's a basic one-page document with pretty straightforward information. So if there are no questions, I'll leave it to board to vote.
Further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Thank you, Debbie.
Consideration of approval of revisions to board policy and administrative regulations. Do we have a motion? I move.
I'll second.
So this is a second read. The revision was to provide a opportunity for students to graduate early through a process that's been developed at the site. And that language is reflected at the end of the policy.
Questions? Comments? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of approval of proposed revisions to Exhibit 1113 district and school websites from CSBA October updates. Do we have a motion?
I move that we,
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Second reading.
Anyone have any comments or questions, public or otherwise? All those in favor?
Aye.
Consideration of approval of recommended revisions to Exhibit 5145 Parent Guardian Notifications from CSBA. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
second.
Jeannie, thank you. Discussion, comments?
Second read.
Anybody? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
First reading of recommended revisions to board policy and administrative regulations for the comprehensive safety plan.
So as a first read, yeah, you don't need a motion. So this policy came in, Jenny worked on this for me. There's really no changes other than the additional information added. Jenny, if you'd like to add to that down at the bottom.
We had this debate. The policy is exactly identical to what we already adopted many, many moons ago, and the only changes are to the updated
Links below.
links below. What he said.
Questions, comments?
So
Okay,
this will come
that
back to the
doesn't-
board as a second read at a future meeting. If that's the will of the board, we do have that option in the policy. Would you like it to come back on consent?
Sure.
Great.
Someone can always pull it off if they don't want it, so.
Absolutely.
Consideration of approval of a new course request, Earth Science and Environment for Laguna. Do we have a motion? Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean. Comments?
Yeah, so in an effort to align our instructional program between Annalee and Laguna, which I believe is the right practice, our students come to Annalee. If they become credit deficient, they go to Laguna. So as you approved in our last meeting, we purchased the same social studies curriculum and science curriculum. And we wanted this class. I thought that the Annalee Science Department came up with a really great model for the additional option for physical science. And so Laguna would like to adopt this class as a non-A through G class and mirror that curriculum to meet the needs of their students and have alignment with Annalee High School.
Yeah, that's great. Comments, questions about this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, business services. Consideration of approval of West Sonoma County Union High School District budget and reserve transparency disclosure. We have a motion. Second. Saw second.
Okay.
Probably you, Andrew.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to look at the final adoption and preparation here for the final budget for 24-25, or the first iteration as we go into the next cycle. Not much has changed as explained with the budget overview for parents. We continue the processes of going through and adopting the LCAP and budget. So the next slide, if we look at the enrollment. Oh, it's not, there it is. These projections haven't changed since the public hearing, so those remain the same. Next slide, the local control funding formula remains the same as was presented at the public hearing. The budget, the state budget has been adopted, it has been signed. Now we're just waiting for them to interpret it and kind of trickle down to what does that really mean for us at the local level. So we'll get more of that in July and then make any adjustments necessary. The next slide just talks about our other income. That information has not changed. And then the next slide, we look at our expenditure assumptions as it relates to staffing. As we look at staffing from this year and really look at that multi-year projection, there over the next subsequent years, 25, 26, 26, 27 is projected that we would need to cut 11 FTE should our optimistic programs that we really hope are going to generate additional revenue, just as the state is saying, but they're optimistic with the hopes of revenue being generated, that this will not occur. I have to remind us that, a couple budget cycles ago, it was slated at budget adoption of almost 17 FTE, if I recall, that was going to be reduced, and we have not had to make that big of an adjustment. So other than that, staffing for next year has been updated for, as I mentioned, the 0.4 for Annalee, the 0.4 for the consortium. So you see the final FTE for next year of 183.21. The next is our expenditure assumptions that have not changed from the public hearing. We continue to see those contributions for special ed, along with the workability special ed program and the home to school transportation that is there. As we look at the multi-year projection on the next slide, if you can see that, sorry. We have updated, revenue has not changed. The expenditures have been updated as mentioned for settlements, the final settlements of salary for the last employee groups. As you see down at the bottom that we do continue to have a deficit spending, but we do have the plan to increase and have the hopes of increased enrollment. We already know that we are 50 students above where we initially projected to come in, that they have already registered. We'll make any adjustments to that enrollment and ADA projections at first interim to where we really see who has shown up and that we can really count on the students to actually being here. And then along with the West County I Academy in the hopes that those additional 45 seats open up and kind of bring in that additional revenue. So the hopes of, $1 million coming in through the ADA over this next year and making those adjustments as we go into working the local control funding formula calculator and how that works into actual funding ADA, the drive and the the programs to increase ADA, family engagement facilitator, really looking and understanding why students aren't attending. What are the barriers? We need to get you here. What can we do to ensure that you're being successful in your academic career? And on the offset, we generate that revenue. So as we look at that onto the next slide of kind of the ending fund balance, we see starting at $12 million, and by the end of this budget cycle, we're about $3.6 million. Should revenue not generate, we'll have to address that as we continue to go through this budget cycle and into the next year. And hopefully the state economy will also change and things will look better. We continue to meet our 3% reserve, minimum reserve through this process. One of the last budget cycles that we had done, and while I had been here, that unappropriated fund balance was only like $15. So we still are optimistic of things that will move forward, and as such, we just will continue through the next steps of our multi-year, or the next steps of this budget cycle on the next slide. In looking at recommending to approve the current budget as presented. We'll await the final guidelines of how the current approved budget is going to impact the school district. We'll attend the school services webinar in July. CSBA will have guidance. County office will have guidance as well as to how we kind of make those 45-day revises should there really be any necessary. Really what I think is going to impact us is going to be any deferrals that may come at the end of next fiscal year in June to July. That might impact us. And then we'll present our unaudited actuals on September 11th and then move into, let's paint the bridge again, first interim, second interim, and just keep on updating and really keeping a close eye on what is revenue doing, what are expenditures doing, and really taking a focus of what is it that is necessary and appropriate to support our student academics and our programs here for the district. So with that, any questions?
Andrew, did I hear you right? You said currently enrollment is 50 students ahead of our projection.
Yes.
We don't know how many will stick, but
Right.
some will.
So yeah, no, the Annalee has really done an excellent job in really contacting everybody, making sure, are you really coming? Is this really true? You lose a few over the summer, but they've been really good at really making sure that it's true. It's like they really do show up. Chris and I were kind of like, are you really sure? And they really did. So they do a really great job at knowing who the students are and the families and what they're doing. So I have real hopes that 50 plus are coming in. I think we even have more students coming in.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment, if I may, and just acknowledge, Karen's involvement in that process. Karen's amazing at, she's the one that receives the interdistrict transfer requests. She works closely with Nancy Siebert at Annalee High School and Paula, as well as, Greg and Don over at Laguna, to pre-screen and make sure that those students are, their track record is aligned with board policies, follows up with those parents. They give me their recommendation. I have to make the final decision, but I think we signed a few this week as well. So it's a group team effort, but Andrew's right. Like, where the majority of the enrollments come in at Annalee High School, their staff is doing a really good job of making sure that those families, when they commit, they come, they're registered, they're getting the information to attend all of the onboarding type opportunities. So we're really excited about our projected enrollment, and we could see, in light of some more recent news in Santa Rosa City Schools, more interdistrict requests over the summer.
I was just going to ask what is bringing these students? And is it just a multitude of things like our band folks going out to schools and encouraging people to come and be a part of that? Is those the kinds of things that are happening? What's the?
Yeah, I think that's one good example. I think, Casey Jones has done a really great job of promoting our fine arts programs, but I think it's broad and vast. I think it's, It's all of the dynamic, comprehensive educational programs that we offer. I also think it's a testament to while it's a smaller pool of students, the growth and the progress that Laguna's made. And Ridgeway High School is a school that used to be the marquee continuation high school in Santa Rosa, and we're getting students that want to come to our Laguna program. So I think it's our AP offerings. I think it's our CTE offerings, our fine art offerings, our extracurricular activities, our clubs, our sports. I think that Annalee has always had historically a really great reputation, and I think that we're continuing to improve that reputation and getting the word out. And I think that we've all really gravitated towards the words destination district for students, and I think that that is just going to continue to gain traction, and families are going to want to bring their kids here. I think that unfortunately, for some of the districts that have gone through some adversity, I think that that's assisted us, and we obviously don't wish ill will on any district, but we've definitely been a place that people want to come. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Quality teachers is the part of the word that gets out. Any questions or comments before we approve the budget?
I actually have
Anybody?
a question.
Yes.
So, Andrew, in the budget, the term other local funds is used. What are those?
It'd be anything that's not coming through the local control funding formula model, state funding, federal funding. So the state various programs, CTE, their
Parcel test.
parcel taxes, other income. So kind of those things. So it's going to be all the revenue that's coming in from the other member districts of the consortium. That's other local revenue. Additional facility rental that we have, other local revenue. Interest, if interest rates stay high, they'll be. That's where that falls as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then I also had a question about staffing. We were say, hopefully we don't have to get to a place where we're reducing staff, but are there redundancies in staffing? Is that something that would be looked at if that ever happened?
I wouldn't say redundancies, but I think when you're looking at making difficult decisions with potential cuts in mind, you're looking at preserving your core base educational program. And we're really proud of our dynamic support systems and some of the positions that have been created over the years to provide the additional resources that we know students need to thrive that aren't a part of the core educational program. So you look outside of that, outside of your core academic programs, maybe some of your elective or support classes, maybe some of those positions you might need to take a look at. We've been really mindful and have avoided having to make certificated reductions through the PKS process. And through the merger, we've been able to right-size the high school and make reductions to meet the MYP through attrition, but also ensuring that we have the core educational program and the support structures in place that meet the demands of the enrollment. So we have to make sure that we have enough students to justify the certificated FTE, and then we have to evaluate some of the support systems, the classified positions that really provide that wraparound multi-tiered system of support to promote your core educational program. So I wouldn't say it's redundancies. I think it's really looking at where your enrollments are and how you're staffed in terms of how that would particularly load specific classes through the course request process. And you really just make careful, mindful decisions in terms of the impact on your educational program and your school and obviously your staff. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So that was similar to the question that I had in terms of where reductions would come from if we continued to have this ongoing deficit spending. I mentioned at our last meeting, that the deficit spending has it increased markedly, and we're hoping to correct that with increasing ADA. But I wonder what happens if we get to a point where we then have to decrease electives, which is one of the things that we think brings students here. I think we could then get into a spiral situation of losing what it is that is the hook that's bringing folks here. What, what else are we looking at doing to bring our spending into alignment while we're waiting for the ADA to increase?
I'm not sure I understand your question. I think that if I'm hearing you correctly, how are we looking to save money? What type of cuts would we consider? I don't think it's fair to get into the weeds on that because we would have to, if the time comes, make some really careful considerations in terms of the impact.
Right, that
Yeah.
would be if we needed to make
Right,
cuts
right.
to programming, but in order to maybe head off needing to make cuts in programming, are there other savings that we can look at besides that, so that we're not going down this path of such a severe deficit spending? It's 3.5 for 24, 25, 2.6, and then 2.4. And then we really have no reserves left after 26, 27. So going into 27, 28, which is also when the parcel tax runs out.
Right.
And so it's like, and it's just, it's alarming to see this and just, say, we're hoping that we're going to increase attendance.
Well, yeah, I think it's not just increasing attendance. I think it's building programs. I think it's further utilizing the Laguna campus and building a really dynamic community school under the umbrella of Laguna High School. I think it's the opportunities that we created through the lease agreement to create community engagement and provide a place where more of our Far West students can attend and won't choose to leave to other neighboring districts. I think it is developing initiatives to decrease chronic absenteeism. I think it goes back to a conversation we had in cabinet about limiting unnecessary district spending. And so, I've given Andrew the full authority to manage up and to really draw boundaries around district spending. I think it's working with our site principals to maximize their site dollars, their donation dollars to offset district spending. I think it's an opportunity to look at some of the grants that we've acquired and not look at creating new, but looking at how we can creatively backfill existing programs or create new programs that replicate programs that provide those services. So there's a lot of creative strategies, and I think that we've embedded those strategies into our practice over the last couple years in terms of maximizing those one-time dollars without an impact on the general fund. So we do have monies that come into the district outside of the LCFF generated revenues. So I think it's really just being mindful, being transparent. You're not wrong. The margins are small. We don't want to have to make severe cuts. But as Andrew stated, we've been in worse positions before, and I think we have a team and a plan in place to ensure that we do the best that we can with the monies that are generated through the state. And then I think we're all crossing our fingers that we don't see a 1.07 COLA in subsequent years. And then that projected COLA may improve or may stay the same. So we're going to have to be mindful. And I've shared this with our team, with our site administrators, who will be very aware of district spending in the near future, because as we all know, the work that we did with our labor partners was incredible, but it costs us a lot of money. And our benefit package is incredible, but we can't predict necessarily what that escalated cost is going to be, because you can't bank on a 5%. It was 8%, and the cost of STRS and PERS goes up. So while we have these things set through that negotiations process that are afforded to our staff and employees, the district inherits additional cost increases above and beyond what you negotiate. And that's something that we're mindful of. And I think it's our fiscal responsibility to stay ahead of that, plan, budget, and dial back spending.
Mm-hmm. And right. And like you mentioned, Andrew, increasing attendance and getting kids to school is great for the kids, and it fills those seats in the classrooms. Increasing enrollment comes with increased expenses, because if we increase enrollment, then sometimes we might need to add sections, and that means more teachers, and so it's not like more students just brings us money that fills and solves what we already have, because a lot more students would also mean a lot more expenses.
In some regards, but I think I've made this really clear. Our vision for building the community school in creating an innovative, dynamic, non-comprehensive program, you're going to generate more revenues than expenses, because your program is going to be dynamic. Our vision to have a hybrid independent study program with teachers that can teach outside of their credentials means that it's not only going to be solvent, but it's going to create revenue. It's not as if we're just looking at building the Annaly program, which, to your point, a comprehensive high school program, enrollment means that staffing needs to meet that enrollment. So over the last few years, I've really kind of honed in on my creative sense and how we can look at being dynamic and do something that's not only solvent, but that generates more revenues than expenditures. And I think we have that opportunity on the former El Molino campus. And I think that the vision is broad, is vast, it's aspirational, but I think it's very, very attainable. And what we've learned is that the community, the state of public education in not only Sonoma County, California, but the United States is changing. There's always going to be interest in attending a dynamic comprehensive high school, but learners are changing, families' interests are changing, students' post-secondary goals are changing. I think what we're planning to do at Laguna in 25, 26 is an incredible opportunity to just break into the possibilities of what we can do with a non-comprehensive program. And what I've shared with my team is building something like that is first and foremost amazing for students, but it helps sustain the comprehensive program because we know the costs are so high and they really kind of offset themselves with your enrollment. So you make good points, but I think just understanding that we're planning to do things a little bit differently than the traditional model.
Mhm.
So I think the move to create the full-time independent study program, while you're really taking 45 seats, putting them there and creating 45 new seats, you're creating 45 empty seats at Annaly. And again, 90 students is over 1 million. We get those 90 students, that MYP looks a lot different. So, I mean, I appreciate the questions and I appreciate the trust and support of the board to, provide me with direction and support the strategic plan that we've developed. But I think what we plan to do on the Laguna campus is a necessity for the district to sustain success and financial solvency.
So let me
I'd
just
like
make
to
sure
move
I
us to a
understand.
Vote
I have,
pretty soon.
I have, sure.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying then about this program that you are, this new program, which would be a non-comprehensive program. And you're saying that the district would receive ADA funding in excess of what's needed for them. And so rather than incorporating it back into those students there, those students wouldn't cost as much for us to educate. And so that ADA would then go to supplement the comprehensive school. Is that what you're?
I don't think,
There's-
I think that's a misinterpretation. I
Okay.
think when you have district program, you look at overall district revenues and overall district expenses. So when you create a program that maximizes district revenues, it's all district money. All the money that's generated support all of the programs. So I think it's that creative approach in generating a program or building a program that generates more revenues than it costs.
Right. So per pupil spending at this other program would be less than per pupil spending at the comprehensive school.
I wouldn't say that we're creating cost centers within the district. It's an overall arching educational program. It's like as we delegate site funds, one site gets a set dollar amount, $90 for Annaly and $120 for Laguna, because of their needs are different. So each program could cost different amounts. So we
Right.
got to look at the needs and then see what it is. It's not this money's generated over here and this is for you and can't be used anywhere else. And you only generate this and you only get X. So they're not cost centers competing against each other. What does the educational program need to operate as a whole based off of really what is our overall funding?
Right. It's just,
Mhm.
I guess what gives me pause is that we're really advocating for this non-comprehensive, non-A through G program that costs less for students, but yet we get the same amount for them from the state. But then we're able to give them teachers that don't cost as much because they don't have the single subject credential.
No.
And so that
Debbie, I
gives me
think,
pause.
I don't think you're following me. And I think that,
If you could explain
I've
it.
explained this time and time again, and I'm answering a lot of the same questions that I've received. And I just said a few minutes ago that we are planning to create A through G opportunities through this program. So I think that this really doesn't affect necessarily the adoption of the budget. So I would encourage the board to stay focused on this item.
Sure.
Happy
Maybe
to
we could have
engage you
another,
further.
maybe we could have
Yeah.
another agenda item on that, because an online program versus actual instructors.
Hybrid.
Yeah.
Hybrid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd be happy to continue. I mean, we brought
Yeah.
forward, I think, 4 presentations in the last year and a half regarding our progress towards our community schools. Happy to continue to reiterate it, make sure that the board is fully informed and aware. And then we are also planning to host informational sessions beginning in the fall to move outwards to our different communities to make sure they understand, but also so they can help inform the educational program. We have an overarching vision as to why this would be needed, and we've heard that input from parents and families that have left the district. But I think this is getting a little bit off the track a little bit.
So the question on the floor is considering the approval of the budget for 24-25. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
Aye.
Consideration of approval of resolution, not revolution, resolution 17 regarding education protection account. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So as part of the local control funding formula, receive funds for, or set aside basically as a portion of the educational protection account. All those funds go to support staff salaries, mainly all certificated salaries, really, instructional certificated salaries. So this is just the resolution that says that is where the funds are spent.
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Okay, sorry. Debbie?
Aye.
Jeannie?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Louis? Aye. Julie absent. Okay. It says approval. Anyway, consideration of approval of resolution number 18, requesting to borrow fund transfer from the county treasury. Kind of pro forma, but do we have a motion? Second.
I'll second.
Andrew.
All right, so in the event that we need to borrow funds from the county treasury, currently cash flow looks positive throughout the year. Not anticipating to have to pull this mechanism, but should, depending on what deferrals look like, if any, for this upcoming year, there might be a possibility. But at this time, it's not projected to have that, but this is just one of those mechanisms to have in place should we need to borrow money throughout the year, and then the payment would have to be final made by the last Monday in April, shouldn't any money be borrowed. The only impact to us would be the cost of negative interest that we would owe to the county for them lending us the funds.
It's like a line of credit. with
Yeah,
the county.
yeah.
Questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Consideration of approval of,
Oh, roll call, sorry. Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Debbie,
Aye.
Jeannie.
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
Louis, aye. Okay, thank you. Consideration of approval of spring release of consolidated application for funding. We have a motion. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.
Andrew.
So this is our federal programs that we get the funding for Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV to support our programs. It actually came out on time this year, so we're not approving the spring in the fall.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Human Resources.
Do you want to call for a vote first?
Sure, I was just like thinking about this was your last.
I know.
Consideration of approval of monthly personnel report. Do we have a motion? Second?
Second.
Sean, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I do have a revision that I'd like to note first. I discovered that there was a typo. So the first one is Kelly Heidke is our new school psychologist, and the FTE should have been a 0.8, not a 1.0. And her start date is August 12th, not August 14th. And Adriana Lopez, her start date is August 12th, not August 14th. So I had a couple typos there. In addition, we have hired some other employees, and I'd like to note who they are. Trevor Wolford, who is going to be an English teacher at Anley High School. John Bransford is going to be a behavioral assistant at the consortium. And Louis Mora Estrada is our new family engagement facilitator. And we did receive a letter of resignation from Gloria Mora, who's been our communication coordinator, and she will be leaving us. Her last day will be August 2nd. But Gloria has accepted a teaching job at Hillsburg, so we're very excited for her.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Before there's a vote on this, there should probably be an amendment to include, the motion was made before Mia added her
Okay.
changes.
I will certainly amend my motion for the corrections. Thank you.
Oh, amended second.
Now, all those in favor of the amended? Debbie? Everybody, it's not a roll call.
Aye.
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 Jeannie?
We're not doing
Aye.
public comment
Aye.
anymore?
It's not a,
Consideration of approval of teachers teaching outside the credential area. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is a routine item, and this year, under the core subject areas that we have 2 teachers that will be teaching outside of their credential area is Jane Mays, who will be teaching 5 sections of independent study and 1 section of wellness, and Bruce Myers, who will be teaching 1 section of film literature. All the other assignments outside of the credential area are in an elective course, and they're also listed on the cover sheet. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, consideration of approval to roll over a maximum of 10 vacation days through the 24-25 school year for Chief Business Officer and Director of Facilities, Bond and Technology, Andrew and Jenny. Do we have a motion? I move that we consider, that we approve the rollover.
I second.
Second.
Okay, so in both of their contracts, it allows for the board and the employee, along with the superintendent, to enter into a special agreement to roll over a maximum of 10 days. Sometimes it's hard to get all of your vacation days in with different, projects that you have going on. So we are asking the board to allow both our CBO and our Director of Facilities, Bond and Technology to roll over a maximum of 10 days each to the next school year.
Questions or comments?
I guess, how does that impact, I mean, if it was hard to take that vacation time in this last year and now it gets added to the next year, does that make it even harder because there's projects and work next year?
I think that, we've had internal conversations. I think their calendars have, looking at work-life balance and, the priority that we're using the vacation in the year that it's accrued. I think both the directors have planned it out, but we have obviously got to play that by ear.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Facilities maintenance and technology. The first item is consideration of approval of a contract for the mobile modulars for the purchase of 6 new portables for Emily High School campus. It's a piggyback contract. And to determine that the amended project is exempt under CEQA. Do we have a motion?
I'll move.
Second. I'll second. You want to explain?
Yes, this item is, we're going to proceed forward with the portable project that you guys have already approved, prior architect agreements for. This is the procurement of the portables. We need that in order to start the DSA process. We're in the mix of designing all of that. Also, initially, when we had done the categorical exemption for the CEQA, we listed 4 portables being added. We were asked to add as many as we could because we know that we have future modernization projects that we're hoping to bring forward to you in August. This will be somewhat of temporary housing for displaced classrooms while those construction projects occur. So we were trying to maximize out that area. Our legal has reviewed this. We're well within the categorical exemption guidelines and can make an amendment to our existing CEQA and file a brand new NOE, notice of exemption. I'm happy to answer any additional questions. This is a piggybackable, yeah, I like to come up with all the fun words, contract. So it is completely legal for us to use an existing contract to procure these portables. It quickens the time. And I will let you know, all of these classrooms will be brand new. We priced out used. Used ended up being more expensive. So these will be brand new portable classrooms. One of them, which is the larger of the 6, will be fabricated on site. The rest of them are already built and ready to go.
Questions?
Yeah, Jenny, what is the plan for these portables after the construction is completed?
They're going to stay there forever. So this is, we are not going to DSA under the guise of these are temporary portables. They're called temporary portables because they're not slab on grade, they're on blocks. But we all know how portables happen on campus. They stay there forever. So as part of the logistically long-term plan, it would be to not have any portables on campus and to remove all of them and everything to be site built. However, we know the difficulties of that with changing trends in enrollment, and if we actually build it and they do come or they will come, we'll have increased enrollment. So I don't see these portables going away anytime soon. This is a long-term investment. Portables typically last about 20 years, so I'd be surprised if we removed them before that. But we do have other portables on the Student Services Center campus, along with the district office facilities that are in pretty rough shape.
Mm-hmm. So if you didn't need them for classrooms, you could use them for office space. Is that what you're saying?
They could be used for a variety of things. The goal right now is to use them for classrooms. One of them is a larger portable. We call it 3 floors instead of 2 floors because portables come in 24 by 12s. And so that is intended for the maker classroom when we tear down that facility, to have them have somewhere to go. So when the maker moves into their new location and we start to kind of what I call the trickle effect of construction, move people around to accommodate. What I was more referring to is if we didn't need portables 4, 5, 6, and 7 at the campus, those are in pretty rough shape, and we decided to do something different. I mean, I have all kinds of dreams, but they haven't been approved by the board of, you know, what we could do in that area with a potential 2-story.
All right, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one. So, Chris, thank you for talking to me about the CEQA exemption earlier. Appreciate that. But I still want to bring it up. Just could you maybe explain how for the 4 original that were originally exempt were replacements, and so how adding 2, are they also replacing some classrooms, or is this something else?
Good question. So when we were originally looking at the CEQA, we were looking at adding more classrooms because we were looking at adding a potential 2-story. And so the total count of classrooms is kind of blurred a little. So it's not necessarily that we're gaining 2 and not deleting more. We're removing 2 classrooms on the Annalee campus. We're removing the Maker classroom. I don't know what else to call that building. And we're removing the Ag portable. And we're picking up 3 new buildings, which we went through at the last board meeting. The portables that we're bringing in are in addition to that. Originally 4 in the Sequa, now 6. I know I just convoluted the heck out of that. So we're picking up a net total of, sorry, it's going to take me a second to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 classrooms.
I guess what I'm asking is, if the exemption is based on replacement, what are we?
The exemption is not based on replacement. The exemption is based on the percentage in which you can expand and have it go under, submitted as a categorical exemption, and we're under that threshold.
I think it was 23% versus the threshold being 50, something like that.
23.6%. Yes. So sorry, I was getting confused. So it's not one or the other. It is the threshold in which you can expand your campus, because California Environmental Quality Act knows that trends in enrollment change based on birth rate and students going through and everything, and that you need to, even with the developer fee conversation that you were having, when you have new developments, you have new kids moving into the area. So they allow for us to have moderate growth. And this is us adding 2 additional classrooms to our original Sequa. And I didn't want to do that without making sure that we modified what we submitted, because I knew it was such a hot button topic, and I wanted to be very transparent about that, A, with the board, and B, with our community.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Comments from the public? And your comment is?
Thank you. She wants classrooms.
Now can we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Done and done. Return to closed session if necessary, not. Future meeting dates. Debbie, thank you for reminding us about the special on the 31st. The other dates are listed here. Are there any further comments? The meeting is adjourned, and Julie's